And we are live. That went way quicker when I clicked that button. I am Josh Engleman. This is NBA Live Before Lock. I'm joined by Greg Ehrenberg. It is Wednesday, April 9th. We have a very interesting slate today. 6 games on DraftKings. Full 10-gamer on FanDuel. Half the league is sitting today. We started today with 11 of the 20 teams on a back-to-back. I barely made it through the strategy show. It was a quite the journey. And now everything's different, and we're going to break it all down. So shout out to DraftKings for sponsoring this show. We'll definitely talk about them a little bit later. Maybe, just maybe, I will do my best Ben Raza impression. Ooh. But hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter. You ready for this one, Greg?
I'm ready. We did a little bit of a competition. I was on MLB Live Before Lock this afternoon with Spag. So I personally also did a Ben Raza impression, had the audience say who they thought did it better, you or me. So we'll see. Ooh. There's different takes.
I wonder who did it better.
There's no way to know.
Probably pretty close. I'm guessing we're both pretty good at it. I'm guessing it was almost indistinguishable.
It depends. Some people have differing opinions. It's hotly contested in the chats.
That it is. So we got a couple teams that we need to focus on today. We're consolidating a bit of ownership. So much so, in fact, that 78% of all ownership on the DraftKings slate is in those 7 and 7:30 games. Even more importantly, half of it, 50% of all of the ownership is locking at 7 o'clock. So I guess we'll start there. And we're starting with the Boston Celtics, who are they're nothing I was going to say, but there was definitely a sentence that normally would have came out of my mouth for right now, but it's not. For Boston, here is the injury report. Jaylen Brown is questionable, at least per the 5:30 injury report. No Drew Holiday, no Al Horford, no Kristaps Porzingis, no Jason Tatum, no Derek White. And that is leading us to 50% ownership on Peyton Pritchard, 30 on Sam Hauser, 10 on Baylor Shireman. Very little else coming in here against this Orlando Magic team. Where's your eye go for Boston? Because I think they're interesting to talk about.
So there's a very obvious point here. We're just talking about the chalk. The other part of this too, why is Jaylen Brown playing and what can we expect from him? Like, there's a part of me that thinks the starting lineup is going to come out. Jaylen Brown just won't be in it. And then we find out that he's going to just DNP. I'm so confused why he is in every other meaningful play. Well, Peyton Pritchard also is in, although it's like a little bit different of a scenario for him. He's younger, doesn't have the same wear and tear on him. To me, the most interesting part of this game is what the hell is Jaylen Brown doing out there? And then also just kind of the expectation is that he's not going to play very much. If he starts, like maybe that could be the case, but I think he kind of is an interesting GPP target as well if he ends up starting to take a flyer on, just because the general expectation is that he's going to play limited minutes today. I don't think that's a guarantee though. So this is the one piece I'm so confused about is Jaylen Brown and his involvement in all of this.
A couple guys in chat seem to think it has something to do with getting to 65 games. That is not going to be relevant in this case because Jaylen Brown is not going to be winning any awards.
Yeah. Not only is he not going to be winning awards, but let's see, what is his current? Yeah, he's played 63 games, so he only needs to play 2 more. Keep in mind, what do you have to play? Over 20 minutes in games where you play? Is that the mark?
You do.
Okay. So, it
doesn't even have to technically be 65 games. There's like bullshit. You got to log at least 20 minutes in all but 2 of them. So technically speaking, he doesn't even have to do that.
All right. So I don't think it's a bad hypothesis, and that might be Boston's thought process. But also, you said he's so not alive for awards. Like, what are they doing? It's like, hey, we need 65 games out of Jaylen Brown so that he could be what? Like what? He's not all NBA. He's not like what is he winning? So maybe Boston thinks he's live for all NBA. Maybe he thinks he's live for all NBA, and he went to them and he said, hey, I need to play these games so I can be there. They're just like, sure, we'll accommodate it. It makes more sense than anything else that I could possibly put together. But yeah, it's really confusing to me that everybody else is out and he's on the injury report. The other thing too is he could how many games does Boston have left here?
2 or 3, I'm guessing.
Boston has 3 games left. I mean, they could sit him out today and he could play the next 2 games. Like it's, and keep in mind that obviously Boston's not in the play-in game. He could still play Sunday.
Best I could tell from what people are saying in chat, I know local Dank Crew saying it's a contract incentive. Everything I'm seeing, including on Celtics Reddit, is very specifically saying there is no roster bonus.
He's already made an All-NBA team as well.
Keith Smith said it 4 hours ago. Jaylen Brown does not have any bonuses in his contract.
Yeah, so it's really hard to figure. If he starts and plays full minutes, that's not impossible. I don't think this is what you expected my answer
incentives. There are no contractual incentives to being eligible for or making an All-NBA team for Jaylen Brown.
Jaylen Brown just ruled out.
There you go. Doesn't matter now.
All right. There we go. Question answered. Because this has been just absolutely bugging me for hours now. And now we have our answer. I'm like, this makes absolute zero fucking sense. And I need to know why. And now he's gotten ruled out. And I'm like, cool. This makes so much more sense to me now.
R says he's making $49 million. I hardly think he's worried about $850K. You are 100% wrong. If it was an $850,000 bonus, whether he's making $49 million or $490 million, he wants the $800,000. Everyone does. Promise.
EMAC bringing up Greg talks and news happens. I'm just trying to be logical about situations that don't make any sense. All right, now that we've got confirmation that Jaylen Brown is out, now
all I had to do was just pick a different team, and we would have never done this Jaylen Brown bullshit.
I have a feeling this isn't what you thought I was going to say, and this wasn't the path that was going to go down. But listen, we got our answer here. Anyway, now that that's finalized, Boston looked really good already. They look even better now. Peyton Pritchard, he was my most rostered player. I'm going to get even more exposure to him than I had before. Sam Hauser, he looked like a great value at wing. He looks even better as a value at wing. There's less competition for usage. There's less competition for somebody else to potentially pick up some of that playing time there. So those are the 2 primary options for me from Boston, but they're certainly not the only options from the team. Like, I still think we could take some shots on, say, like Shireman. He's somebody who I was getting in 19% of lineups as a contrarian option. Now, I assume he starts. In place of Jaylen Brown. I think the starting lineup's going to be Pritchard, Shireman, Hauser, Tillman, and Cornette. I think that's the starting 5 that they're going to go with. So Shireman's going to look better. Those to me are the 3 top guys from Boston.
Hauser's just weird to me because he's so not good. Like, we have a 21% optimal, 32% ownership. I only got to 27%, so I'm like a hair under the field on him. Obviously, the minutes should be there, and the volume can be there, but I don't love the matchup. He's the guy that scares me a little bit. Like, I got a big stand on Shireman. We'll see if his ownership comes up because he's not going to be 35% optimal and 12% owned by the time we get to 7 o'clock. So we'll see how that shakes out. Peyton Pritchard, he's just awesome.
Yeah, Peyton Pritchard.
I don't know how you dodge that.
As of right now, Peyton Pritchard to me is the best overall option on the slate, subject to change, just because there is a lot that is subject to change at this point in time in the season. The starting lineup might come out. Pritchard might not be starting for all we know, and they're like, "What the hell is going on here?" Like we've already seen. I've been confused by Boston, and then they do kind of what I thought they were going to do to begin with. But assuming this is the starting lineup for Boston that I just went over with Shireman starting in place of Jaylen Brown. Those are my 3 top guys. And as for Sam Hauser, clearly he's not a great fantasy producer, but I just look at this lineup, Josh, and I'm trying to figure out like who's taking shots outside of Peyton Pritchard.
Shireman's going to let it sail, that's for sure. Sam Hauser's going to let it sail, that's for sure. But neither one of those guys are going to be creating a lot of their own offense. So I think Peyton Pritchard's going to be doing a lot of heavy lifting in this one, that's for sure.
Any concerns from you about his playing time?
No, not really. Like, in the grand scheme of things, and people are going to freak out when I say this, but like, he's mostly irrelevant. He's not going to play a ton in the playoffs when it matters. Like, all these 28-minute games that he's getting now are going to become 12s by the time we get to the playoffs and nut crunch time, because he's a scab that other teams can pick at defensively. So I don't think they care. Just soak it up, go out there, play hard. They'll be fine.
Yeah, so that is going to round up our longer than expected conversation about the Boston Celtics because it changed midway through it.
It did indeed. It did indeed. We might as well just touch on Orlando quickly. 15% ownership to Banchero, 12 to Franz. They're the only team that's not really getting any love in those 7 o'clock games. I assume you're just going to have some of them by default because there's infinite value and you just get them, right?
Yeah, so as far as the Orlando side of the game goes, let's see. What did I end up getting from the pay-up guys who are the ones who are, most relevant? I also find some of these situations really, really hard to project because it's not always easy to know what guys' roles are going to be when they have key teammates who are out. Like we have some sort of a sense like, hey, this guy should get more minutes. This guy should get more usage. And ultimately, the projection doesn't matter too much. Like if a guy's 3K and he's starting at point guard, it doesn't really matter if you project him for 25 or 32 fantasy points. They're going to show up in a bunch of lineups anyway. What I've really struggled with that I do think matters is on the Orlando side, how much easier is the matchup than it would normally be with all these guys out for Boston? And it is really, really hard to project for that, especially at this point in the season where there's so much data being incorporated about this is just what the strength of the difficulty of this matchup is. Whereas this actually might be an incredibly easy matchup for Orlando, but it's not necessarily easy to project it that way.
Are you trying to tell me that Peyton Pritchard, Baylor Shireman, Sam Hauser, Xavier Tillman, and Luke Cornett are not going to be the same defensive team as Derek White, Drew Holiday, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Kristaps Porzingis? I, for one, can't see that path.
So it's so logical, and we absolutely 100% know it's the case. It is really difficult to know what that means for players' fantasy point projections, though.
That is
anyway.
True.
I like Banchero today as a pay-up option.
Same. The next team we got to talk about is Philly. They're fun, as always, missing a ton of bodies. We need to pay attention to their actives and inactives for today because they're still moving those bodies around. But Lonnie Walker's 50% owned on DraftKings. Adam Bona's 40% owned on DraftKings. We're getting 10 to 20 on Jared Butler and Quentin Grimes. It's pretty tough to get away from Lonnie Walker today, I think. He's been playing massive minutes. The position's great. They play the Wizards. He's in 69% of my lineups right now. Lonnie Walker's that dude for me.
Yeah, Lonnie Walker, he's so popular that I'm about even with the fields. He's in half my lineups right now. Interested to see what other injury news breaks that maybe could take away a little from that right now. But as things stand, you got a guy who, while on the whole for his career, isn't the best fantasy producer. He's just in such an opportunity to succeed. There's nobody else to take shots for Philly. They are completely devoid of usage, playmaking, really everything. Like players that are decent, coaching, the whole thing is a disaster for them. I can't remember a recent team who underperformed expectations to this degree. Like there's been teams. Yeah, go ahead.
The 2024-2025 Phoenix Suns.
If we look at the Suns, the amount of games that we expect them to win coming into the season versus how many wins they actually have compared to how many wins the 76ers have right now compared to how many wins we expect them to have in the start of the season, the 76ers are underperforming to a more drastic degree.
Yeah, I disagree. For one reason, and I'll give it to you, and I think you'll understand where I'm coming from. Give me 1 second because I want to get it right. Up until this most recent injury, Kevin Durant played 62 games, 73 games for Booker. Like, they essentially got what they needed out of their two main dudes. I mean, Beal played 51. That's probably like sort of what we expected. Tyus Jones hasn't got hurt. They actually didn't run into any injury issues. They just sucked. Where at least for Philly, it's like, well, McCain went out immediately. Paul George was never right. Embiid was never right. I don't know what the hell you blame Phoenix is on. Just like awfulness.
So for Philly, though, part of this is the chicken or the egg, right? Where if this team was remotely decent, they would still be playing their regular guys. Like Tyrese Maxey isn't so injured he can't play right now. Paul George isn't so injured that he can't play right now. Joel Embiid opted for knee surgery because the team is dog shit. If they were in the mix, these guys would have kept playing. But this team in a very, very poor Eastern Conference, incredibly poor Eastern Conference, they can't compete with the fucking Bulls for a play-in spot.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. I'll tell you what, those are the two answers, though.
Yeah, I mean, if I told you before, even if I told you before the season, like, hey, Joel Embiid's health isn't going to be great this year, you wouldn't have thought that they're going to miss the play-in game and miss the play-in game where it's not even close.
Yeah, it's bad. Well, if you told me those things, I would have thought to myself, holy shit, Hinkie's going to run these guys straight to the ground to keep that pick. Like, I don't think they look like this if they didn't have that pick protection. Like, they're probably in the play-in at that point. Like, they're one of the 4 lowest seeds if that pick doesn't exist, because they're just not tanking in that scenario then.
Just imagine telling you before the season that, hey, the Nets are going to be 3 games up on the 76ers with 3 games left in the season.
You would have thought Philly sank into the ground.
Yeah, just the city got swallowed up by garbage or something.
Yeah, they moved to Puerto Rico. I mean, I think Bona is pretty difficult to get away from. I mean, coming out of our boom bust tool, we have Lonnie Walker and Adam Bona first and second on DraftKings. Josh Giddey in, Herter in, Vooch in. Is there anything you don't like here for Philly?
So, all right, let me look at my current exposures to the 76ers. And boy, YouTube chat's doing a weird thing right now. This is nobody's problem but mine, but it keeps duplicating itself. So I just have like the YouTube chat up on like 6 different tabs. Anyway, from the 76ers.
I thought you meant chat messages were duplicating themselves. I was like, God, they're hard enough to read once.
No, like the YouTube pop-out chat, every time I click on a new tab, it multiplies itself. It just keeps breeding more tabs, but whatever.
Weird.
It took me a second to get to my ownerships right now because of that. But anyway, I think Quentin Grimes is going well overlooked on this slate. I really, really like Quentin Grimes as a lower owned GPP target, especially considering all the value we have on this slate. We've talked about this a little bit over the last couple of weeks, but this minutes cap thing just never really came to fruition. Every once in a while, it rears its head, but for the most part, we could expect, pretty substantial role for Quentin Grimes. And I think that he looks really, really good for this slate, considering how low owned that he is. So those are my 2 primary plays from Philly: Lonnie Walker, Quentin Grimes. If we're going to go down a little bit and look for a contrarian option, I think you take shots on Jared Butler as a low owned option from Philly.
Pay close attention to their inactives list because they're doing weird stuff there. We're going to need to know that in the next 20 minutes. But and similarly on FanDuel, Lonnie Walker ranks 3rd, Adam Bona ranks 9th, Grimes ranks 10th. We're talking about the same things here. We really like Philly. That's what happens when you face the Wizards. Speaking of the Wizards, also aggressively owned, 40% ownership coming into Bub Carrington, ranks 5th. 25 coming into Alex Sarr, ranks 8th. Justin Champagnie, Colby Jones, and Tristan Vukcevic, all in the 10 to 20 range, pulling about 15% of ownership. I think Bub Carrington stands out the most just because he's been playing 1 billion minutes as of late. What else do you like here? Are you going to Sarr, the guy that should win Rookie of the Year?
But I would be happy if Sarr won Rookie of the Year because I've liked him for a minute. I've got what is going to be like a good stand on Alex Sarr overall, but like he's getting no consideration for Rookie of the Year at all. It is, at this point, also just the counting stats more in favor of Steph Castle down the stretch of the year. He's got a little bit more of a narrative behind him. Also, the Wizards just absolute dog shit terrible as a team. But I like the rookies from Washington for this particular slate. Alex Sarr, another guy who I think is going overlooked on this slate. We've only got him projected for around 20% ownership. I'm way overweight to Alex Sarr. I think this is a great game to be stacking. I like Sarr. I like Carrington. To a lesser extent, I have some interest in Champagnie, but really it's Sarr and Carrington for me. Those are 2 of my most rostered players for the slate today. So when you consider that like Sarr, Carrington, Lonnie Walker, Quentin Grimes, Bona as well as somebody who's worth consideration, there's a lot of players to like in this game.
There really are. I have a bunch of it. close to 20% of just about everybody. 50 of Bub Carrington, 20 of Champagny, 40 of Sarr, 25 of Colby Jones, another 20 of Tristan Vukcevic. This is a disgusting game on paper, but it's the best DFS game that we have. So that's where we stand. Same story on FanDuel. Bub Carrington, very popular, not as popular. And then everybody else is in that 10 to 15% range, but that's all fine to me. I think AJ Johnson is probably worth a flyer in GPPs too. He feels like a hair under owned given how much he's been playing as well.
Yeah, potentially. I'm updating everything right now. Let's see. What did I have of him a second ago? Yeah, I only had him in one out of my top 150 lineups. The primary issue with AJ Johnson is just how much good value he's competing with. And he projects so far behind. I do agree with you that this could be one of these scenarios. Like you look at the boom bust tool or something like that, or you run a bunch of simulations, be like, hey, this guy is actually, like 5% owned, but he should probably be like 10% owned. But then in reality, you run lineups and just like, all right, but there's just a lot of guys who are better than him and he doesn't quite make the cut.
Yeah, like we have him in for 30 minutes, and I think that's a very reasonable projection. But he played 34, 37, and 37 in 3 of his last 5. Like he could just play 37 today, and that makes him a very different guy. I think there's a lot more upside to him than the ownership is implying. I like him for larger field contests.
Yeah, that could end up being the case. I'll see. I have a feeling, though, it's going to be even harder to get to him as I update stuff right now for Jaylen Brown being out, though.
Yeah, I'm waiting. We just got the ownership, so I'm going to grab all the updated projections right now. The next team that we're going to touch on is Charlotte. They are the other team that's pulling a ton of ownership, taking on the Toronto Raptors. Bunch of dudes out. No Mark Williams, so 50% ownership to Nurkic, 10 to Moussa Diabate. I don't even want to go any further. Nurkic 5,300, Diabate 3,600, but Nurkic is 50% owned. Diabate at 10. That disparity feels a tad wide.
Assuming Nurkic starts, he's definitely the preferred option. But Nurkic looks like not Nurkic. Diabate looks like a great pivot or leverage play off of Nurkic because, what are the minutes going to be here? Like I know we have it projected right now 24-22, but it could be 24-24. Nurkic could get in foul trouble because he does that almost every single game, and then all of a sudden you get maybe 26 minutes out of Diabate and like 22 out of Nurkic. Nurkic is very difficult to get away from, and he's one of the top center options on the slate. I'd play him in cash games. For GPPs, though, Diabate, very, very viable leverage option.
Yeah, while I didn't get to him, and we'll see where that ends up as we go, I just find him fascinating today in a 5-to-1 ownership relationship. Because, he's still a fantasy point per minute guy. He's not a bad per minute dude. He could play a couple extra minutes very easily. I assume Nurk starts, but you have a $1,700 price gap. So that sort of shrinks it a little bit. Don't get me wrong. Nurk looks great. 40% of my lineups definitely want him. But fascinated by Diabate. And then you've got, 10% ownership coming to KJ Simpson, another 40 coming into Salon. Ooh, but we'll talk about it. 20 more for Nick Smith off the bench. We're loading up on Charlotte Hornets. It's a race to the bottom today. We're basically just stacking all the teams that tank the best.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's what happens at this point in the season every single year. There ends up being teams that play absolute dog shit players who are cheap, but those cheap guys are going to be playing 40 minutes. And just every day we're trying to identify which spots those are and the ones we want to be prioritizing the most. And yeah, there's a lot of those spots today, and there's going to be a lot of them in the next few days as well. We've already talked about a lot of those players. Or it's the other side too. Team like the Celtics, nothing to play for. Not tanking, but doing the inverse where they're just resting because they already have their spots locked up. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, how about Shireman as an option to be getting to? So yeah, I definitely agree.
Speaking of Shireman, since I have the updated stuff here, we did move Shireman to the starting lineup. He is now 3,900, shooting guard, small forward eligible, the number 2 play on the slate on DraftKings, and on last run, 27% owned. I anticipate that climbing pretty dramatically considering he is 60% optimal.
Yeah, I am updating everything right now, running the Sims, and I am pretty interested to see because he's going to be the guy who changes the most with Jaylen Brown out, for sure.
Your sim results are going to be largely irrelevant when you do this because we're going to need another ownership update. You're just going to get 90% of Shireman because of how we have him projected and what his ownership is sitting at for our last run.
Okay. Yeah.
Like he's
Okay.
going to be the highest positive leverage guy because his ownership hasn't refreshed in the same way.
Makes sense.
Hey, apparently Show Next in chat has the receipts. He's beaten us in the Minimax a couple times this year.
Probably.
I can't believe that. I figured I would have beat him every day of the NBA season since October.
I wouldn't, but it's because you suck.
That's fair. That's fair. I deserve that. Well, you know what? I'm pretty good at one thing. I think so, at least. I think that I do a Ben Raza impression better than anybody on this planet. Chat, you tell me.
All customers are eligible to play free for $1 million with a $10 deposit this week. Here are the terms. One per customer, a minimum of a $10 deposit required. The reward issued will be a single-use $10 ticket. Ticket reward is equivalent to site credit only and valid for use on the $10 Fantasy Golf Millionaire Contest. Ticket rewards have no cash value, are non-refundable, non-transferable, and non-withdrawable. Ticket expires April 10th at 7 a.m. Eastern. For terms, visit www.draftkings.com/promotions. Offer ends April 10th at 6:59 a.m. Eastern. If you do have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or 877-8-HOPE-NY. You can also text HOPE-NY at 467-369. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Must be 18 plus in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. Eligibility restrictions applied. Void where prohibited. Max one per customer. Minimum $10 deposit required. One single-use $10 ticket rewarded. Ticket reward is site credit only, valid for use on the $10 Fantasy Golf Millionaire Contest. Ticket reward expires April 10th at 7 a.m. Eastern. For terms, visit www.draftkings.com/promotions. Offer ends April 10th at 6:59 a.m. Eastern. Sponsored by DraftKings.
You were off a little bit today. That one didn't sound like Ben as much.
I have a bit of a cold. I think that might have affected things. So
that
shout out to DraftKings.
That should help your Ben Raza impression.
That's probably true. The cold will probably get me a little bit off of my Ray Romano voice.
Yeah. I mean,
shout out to DraftKings, though. $10 deposit, $10 Millie Maker ticket. Pretty good deal.
It's a good deal. Let's see, where's the Millie Maker at? I've got all my lineups reserved, got to build out my lineups after this. Let's see, do we have a chance at overlay? The $10 currently, it's still got 120,000 entries to go. Whoa, where did Josh go? All of a sudden, Josh was gone.
I know everybody was probably pretty happy that it happened. I accidentally hit the back button.
Oh, of course. So anyway, while you were gone, Josh, I was going to look up the Millie Maker, which locks tomorrow morning. There's still 120,000 spots available in that Millie Maker contest. There's a decent chance it's going to overlay on DK.
Oh yeah, that's going to be a really nice contest for people to enter. That's for sure.
Yeah. So take advantage of it.
I'm a moron. Keep going.
Yeah. I mean, we figured that out when you accidentally left by pressing the back arrow, but would you like to expand on that?
I'm just going to expand on Squeak Diesel's super chat. He said, "Hi guys, Steven Adams projection on FanDuel. Thank you. That would be 22.5 fantasy points."
Yeah. So a team that we have not yet touched on that doesn't matter for the DraftKings slate, but it is very, very relevant for the FanDuel slate. The Houston Rockets are sitting a shit ton of guys today. And that is something that is going to matter to some degree over there because, I mean, if we read off the injury report for Houston. All right, here we go.
Pretty detailed. I have it here if you don't have it yet.
Yeah, I got it pulled up right now. So the Houston Rockets, who most notably are sitting out Amen Thompson, Fred VanVleet, Alperen Şengün, Jabari Smith, and Dylan Brooks. That is a bunch of playing time that is open for the Houston Rockets. A little bit different from the situation that we had in Boston. I'm very confused why Jalen Green is playing, but all of these other guys are sitting because Jalen Green has been playing big minutes and he's a core part of the team. And you might say, well, hey, he's young. Why can't? Yeah, go ahead.
Musa Diabate out.
Oh, all right. Well, now just like 1,000,000,000% Nurkic.
Yeah. Makes Salon look better too.
Yeah. All right. He's not a leverage play anymore.
Is Taj Gibson?
No.
Okay. 3,600. Backup center. Just saying.
Anyway, I'm pretty skeptical of the playing time for Jalen Green. Actually, let me look at this up right now. Yeah, some people in chat saying that Green has the Iron Man streak going. My best guess with Jalen Green is that he plays until the first time out, comes out of the game, and doesn't check back in.
Wouldn't be surprising.
That's
he's never missed a game. 304 for 304. Well, never not started a game, I guess. He's definitely missed games.
I am going to say that Jalen Green does not step on the court in the second half today.
You think he's pulling the Mikal Bridges?
Yeah, I think he's doing the Draymond Green with the calf situation from a couple of years ago. Well, actually, more if we're going to stick on, I think the Kevon Looney did this for years, where he just played until the first. The Warriors used to rest every single player on the team other than Looney when he was relevant, and Looney would start and he would just come out at the first whistle and never check back in. I think that's probably what happens with Jalen Green.
Would not be surprised by that at all. Mustang Man Mike, 5 must plays on FanDuel today.
Ooh, all right. Easy. So 5 must plays. So we're not talking about maybe plays. We're talking about the must plays on FanDuel. All right. So
Peyton Pritchard,
number 1, easy. He's one for sure. Another one for me on FanDuel, Luka Doncic, 11.5. He is considerably cheaper on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings. I hate to apply narratives to players. I think this is one that probably matters a little bit, though. I think Luka is going to be a little bit more trigger happy to shoot, and I think the Lakers probably are going to go out of their way to make sure he gets the ball more often in this game as well. So Luka,
surely LeBron wants that too.
Yeah. So
he's all for it. I got another one.
Luka,
Jalen Williams with a Y.
Yep, Jalen Williams with a Y. That's going to be I get him and Peyton Pritchard in the backcourt is what Jalen Williams with a Y is to me in the front court on FanDuel. Just get a ton of him. So those 3, with Luka being my favorite pay up option, maybe not a must play, but just somebody who, for me, I really, really like over on FanDuel and DraftKings, Quentin Grimes. And then finally, I'm going to throw a Keon Ellis as another one in there.
Agreed. Yeah, we have Pritchard, Williams, and Ellis as the top 3 optimal guys in our last run. Andrew Wiggins available to play. Okay. All right. Who do we need to touch on that we haven't talked about yet? We got about a half hour to go here. We've hit on all the teams that are getting sort of any real ownership. Do we want to work our way through the pay up options that exist on this slate now? Because we do have a boatload of them.
Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about it. I kind of tipped my hand a little bit about somebody who I like a good amount when I mentioned Luka there a second ago. Although we also have, let me just double check to make sure there aren't outstanding questions for us. We got the Celtics starting lineup.
Oh, it's Craig over Tillman. So Pritchard, Shireman, Hauser, Craig, Cornett.
All right. Craig's viable now.
Yeah. Yeah, 3,600. Power forward center is certainly an eligibility to give him, but that's fine. Not so sure center is what I think it should be, but sure.
Also, shout out to Chris Williams, gifted us 5 YouTube memberships. So shout out to Chris for that. We also got one question from Discord. Coach DFS wants to know our top DK plays by position. So yeah, we could do. Let's because I'm gonna have to rerun lineups here in a second. I don't think my top options are gonna change at each position. So as far as top options go, we could roll through that before we look at some of the pay up options.
Pritchard, Shireman, Lonnie Walker, Nurkic. I mean, those first 3 are pretty unassailable.
It's Anthony Davis for me at power forward. Well, at least it was. Here's one that could maybe change. My ownership is probably going to pick up on Salon with Diabate out. He is power forward eligibility. But overall, I think this is a good spot for Anthony Davis as well. In a similar, it's not like the exact same scenario with Luka, but I do think that we are going to see Dallas probably give Anthony Davis a full allotment of minutes tonight. We've seen him kind of trending that way as of late. And with that being the case, Anthony Davis is simply underpriced. He is now playing a normal role for Dallas. And for whatever reason, he's just not priced that way. And it's a normal role, but it's like he's underpriced for if he was playing his normal role and Kyrie was in right now.
Yeah, I had 40-something% of him. I'm fully expecting to have a ton. I'm totally cool with that shout. He looks really good, even in limited minutes. Like, I hope there's some upside there, but even if there isn't, he still looks pretty good.
Okay. 1 sec. I'm just going to text my dad something. This is very ridiculous. So he's texted me to ask if I'm okay. Apparently there's a news story where there's a car that flipped over on my street. It's literally the exact same car as mine. So like he thinks I'm dead right now.
Yeah, you should probably text him.
Yeah, it's just a coincidence.
Just be like, nope, I'm upside down.
Yeah, I'm just going to tell him because I think this is fine. I'm going to tell him my car got stolen, but I'm fine.
Got another super chat here that says, hi, what are your thoughts on Denny if he plays? Do I have a lot of him on my last run? No, but on our last run at 9,900, we had him projected for 17% ownership. We only have him for 8% optimal, so he kind of looks like a bit of a negative leverage option, but at the same time, the game's a little later, so I don't hate having him and late swapping if you need to, but he doesn't look as good in our projections as the ownership shows. I think we got that one in. Yeah, so from a pay up standpoint, we've got Luka at 12.9, we've got LeBron at 10.3, Giddey at 10.1, Banchero at 10K, and then you get into that 9K range with Denny, AD, Hero, Bam, Kobe White, Quentin Grimes just outside that 9K range. I think AD is the top option there, and I don't even think it's particularly close.
Yeah, 1-2 for me. It's kind of funny the data bears this out when the reality is this isn't narrative based, but it just kind of is what it is. Luka and AD are my two most rostered spend up options. We're talking about the upper echelon of players. Quentin Grimes is in that mix as well. He's just a little bit cheaper. I'm kind of looking at guys like 9K and above. If I'm including the 8K guys, my favorite pay up options are the trio of Anthony Davis, Luka Doncic, and Quentin Grimes.
I think we're on the exact same page here because AD is the guy that I have the most. Quentin Grimes is the guy that I have the second most. I don't have a ton of Luka just yet. I have more of LeBron and more of Paolo, but maybe that wiggles around as we build out some more lineup. Sixers lineup is as we expected: Butler, Grimes, Walker, Bagley, Bona. Wonder how many people played Marvin Bagley.
My thought the other day, especially because people were saying in the chat, like, why are you guys saying Marvin Bagley is only a 0.7 fantasy point per minute producer? I was thinking afterwards, like, boy, Marcus Bagley is going to get an inflated boost in use in ownership just because people are going to think he's Marvin Bagley.
Probably happened. I didn't look, but he was certainly more owned than he would have been otherwise. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think he ended up being like 17% or something like that.
Well, I got one more thing I want to talk about here. It's important. It's the all access promo that we've got going on right now. The promo code is all. You'll get $100 off any DFS package or any all access package that you choose at Stokastic. Covers everything. Projections, ownership, all of our advanced data, simulation tools across the board, premium Discord. I'm sure I'm leaving a bunch of stuff out. NBA. I mean, we're about to get into like really fun NBA for the playoff games because you get good basketball. It's more, you want to watch it more. NHL is here, MMA every weekend, PGA every weekend, including the Masters right now. NASCAR, baseball is here, and that's not going anywhere. If you play multiple sports in DFS, just click the link in the description. Use that promo code ALL. Get $100 off an all-access package. We don't run deals for all access all that frequently. So if you don't take advantage now, it's going to be a while before you see one that looks like this. So if you're somebody that plays multiple sports and you want to come check it out, promo code ALL. Link in the description. Where do you want to go here? What haven't we talked about that's important?
Yeah. So one other thing as well that I think we should touch on is try to find any kind of contrarian options that we might want to mine out for the slate. And then also maybe a look at some of the existing injuries right now. Like you had brought up Denny, he's still questionable. Collier's questionable. Anthony Simons is questionable. Norman Powell is questionable. So for, some of these spots, it's not going to be, like super, super relevant. But Portland kind of gets interesting if Denny and Simons are both out.
They really do. It's getting thin there. You're talking about pretty massive minutes. Like Anthony Simons looks pretty good at 6,700 if he's in, because I assume he's just going to get like something normal minutes wise. Denny being out just frees up infinite playing time. So I'm very curious to see what Portland looks like. They could be a very interesting late swap team because I don't think we'll have any of their news anytime soon.
Yeah, so the other reason I want to talk about them a little bit is because this is normally a situation where I'd be trying to reserve spots in my lineups, because you get this situation where if Denny and Simons are out, the field isn't going to swap to other Portland guys.
Yeah.
I'm finding it really, really hard to justify foregoing some of the early games to give myself flexibility to maybe get to Portland guys. Also, something that's on my mind related to this is that we saw this scenario the other day. I assumed Denny was going to be out and he ended up playing. It's the same thumb injury. My intuition is that these guys sit. It's really hard for me to pull the trigger and go heavy on Portland and forego like Boston or something like that.
Agreed. It's tough. It's tough. And there's so many spots on today's slate that are just like wildly uninteresting. You've got Utah, got Colin Sexton, Juzang, Keontae George pulling a little bit of ownership. Miami is, kind of like mostly indifference for those guys. Chicago, they look downright dreadful now that these guys' prices are up and everybody's back. Toronto is not pulling any ownership. Mobo got to 10. That's about it. Dallas is AD and literally nothing else. Dinwiddie getting 3% ownership, so there's nothing there. Lakers, it's LeBron and AD and nothing else. Like so many of these spots just don't have plays.
Yeah, the mid-range outside of guys like Peyton Pritchard, this is a fairly dead mid-range to me. Well, I guess Nurkic as well. Like I'm kind of thinking of him more on the lower end, but
yeah,
Nurkic, Pritchard. I guess I misspoke a little bit because there are guys like Sarr. We talked about him; he looks good. Lonnie Walker. So never mind. But it's still generally a stars and scrub slate with a couple of guys in the mid range mixed in. I'm really curious to see Luka's actual ownership. He's projected for very low ownership right now. I do get a little concerned he's going to get an artificial bump because of the narrative surrounding the game.
I completely agree. That is a natural hand builder's dream to click on Luka Doncic playing Dallas. Like the people that are building one lineup on their phone by hand, I would imagine the proportion of ownership to those guys for Luka Doncic is staggeringly high. It's just such an easy thing to do.
We just got an update, by the way. So I'm going to run everything through with this, and I want to see what our updated ownerships end up looking like as well, just to make it more accurate, actually. And I recommend that people using our tools do this as well. Do like one or two arrows of a bump on Luka in the contest generator, because this is one of these things that we see this come up maybe once every 2-3 weeks, where there's a situation that just kind of is something beyond what data can measure. I think Luka is going to get a little bit of a narrative bump.
Jalen Hood-Schifino is inactive.
Okay.
I'm sure that you've been waiting patiently for your Jalen Hood-Schifino news.
I mean, we had him in for 20 minutes.
Well, he's about to get 20 less. I think that leads me to believe that if he's inactive, Jeff Doughton's playing today finally.
Maybe. Who the hell knows?
He'll probably soak up a decent chunk of those unless we hear differently. Sad day for Jalen Hood-Schifino, but great day for finding out who tonight's white of the night is. When you get to April 9th in the NBA calendar, it actually becomes significantly harder to find a white of the night because so many more of us get a chance to play. So today, Greg, and I think you and I both are probably on the same page here. We probably want to, it's not going to be as fun to choose Peyton Pritchard. So who's going to be your white of the night?
Peyton Pritchard, and I'll tell you why. This is the man who this entire segment was built around. We talked about the origin of it the other day. We got a super chat at the start of last year where somebody said, who's the exotic play of the night? We didn't know what the hell he was asking us about. Eric answered Peyton Pritchard. All of us made fun of him for weeks. It became a whole bit. If there's a reasonable reason to pick Peyton Pritchard, he by default has to be the guy because without him, none of this exists.
That's true. That's true. He is the namesake of white of the night. No denying that. But he's not going to be my pick. Okay. Can't do it. Can't do it.
You gonna go with one of the other 8 active players for the Celtics?
I am, but it's not Sam Hauser.
Shireman.
You know what? I'm not even going to go to Baylor Shireman. I'm going to go to the guy that, at least as of right now, I'm 2Xing. And that guy, not somebody we really talked about so far. I'm 2Xing the field on Donovan Clingan, tonight's white of the night.
Ooh, okay. All right. Well, we talked before about how Anthony Simons, Deni Avdija, both questionable. In the event that they both get ruled out, like, you wouldn't be upset if you had Clingan in a lineup right now, and he would stand to benefit in the absence of those guys. So I think he makes sense as a GPP option.
Love it. Yeah, I had 20% on my last run. About to kick what I assume is going to be my final run off right now. I'm updating we just got the refresh to the boom bust tool 2 seconds ago. So I'm grabbing that data now. I'm going to refresh it for everybody on the screen, and then I'm going to start my final sim.
Yeah, I want to see what we did with the big man minutes for Charlotte in the projections update, because the biggest piece of news that happened since the last update was that we saw that there is no more Diabate. He has been ruled out. So we now have Nurkic is at 35 fantasy points. We have Salon is now up to Salon, the big gainer in this. We have Salon up to nearly 30 fantasy points at 4,400 now. He's about to show up in a shit ton of lineups. Yes,
he is. And by the way, Malik Monk to miss 2 weeks. Interesting reporting there. I can promise you their season's over.
Yeah. He's actually going to miss, let's see, April, May, June, July, August. He's about to miss 6 months.
Yes, he is. Quickly, Barrett, Barnes, Mobo, and Orlando Robinson for the Raptors today.
All right. Is that what we had projected?
We had Quickly, Barrett, Battle, Barnes, and Mobo.
Okay. That's probably not going to change all that much.
No, I don't think Orlando Robinson is going to be soaking up a ton of more minutes in that scenario. Does he look a point or two better? Probably. Yeah. But I'm not gonna stress out about that one. That's for sure.
No,
I'm excited to see these exposures. I really like this slate.
It's an interesting one. It's an interesting one for sure.
I got Charlotte up on the screen for everybody to see now. 6.5x on Salon, 6.6 on Nurk. We have Taj up to 17.5 minutes, 5.2x on a different day, maybe. On a today day, no, not so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm pumped for this slate.
Not today.
It's just such a if you use our tools, this is an incredible slate for you. All of these slates down the stretch. Like, to have access to our stuff dramatically changes your outlook on days like today.
Yeah, we were talking about it briefly before the show started, but I won the $4 yesterday. It was a split with a few other people, and it was all Stokastic avatars who just had the same lineup from our data. So I don't know who else won from chat, but it's probably a couple of you and probably some people in Discord too who are listening. But yeah, it was a few people. We all tied, and it was like all Stokastic avatars.
Gotta love it, man. So congrats to Greg picking up a dub yesterday. You love to see it.
Nothing wrong with that.
The mini max. I'm sure that other guy beat us, and he's telling all of his friends.
He came in 0th place last night.
That's the spot to be, man. That's the spot. All right, I just kicked off my sim. This is going to be quite the journey. I mean, just the list of guys that are going to be your most exposed players today is just a list of guys that you don't expect to ever see again. Simpson, Smith Jr., Jeffries, Salon, and Nurkic going for Charlotte. We had Seth Curry over Nick Smith, so that is going to make Nick Smith look a little bit better moving into that starting lineup spot.
What's his salary at?
6 minutes, 3,800 point guard, shooting guard eligible, 17% owned. That's going to go up to 25 or so now.
He's a guy on the slate now. This is actually a change. When does that game lock?
7:30.
All right, we'll have time. So I won't incorporate that into my pre-slate stuff in all likelihood because I've got a sim running right now. But that'll be a talking point for us as soon as we get to play back in 8 minutes and start looking over some late swap stuff.
Yeah, I gave him just a little boost in ROI just to, grab a couple extra lineups of him. And now I'm exporting those and going to get my stuff in and find out what I have. Let's find out. It's in my sheet right now. Just got to click refresh. My guess, I'm not going to like any of this. But
we just had another projections update that was real quick. Let's see. Did that move Nick Smith into the starting lineup?
That seems quick. Hopefully, but that seems quick.
We have him at 26 minutes now.
He was at 26 minutes.
Okay. All right. So yeah, it's still the same. Never mind. Oh, you know what? It's
right,
probably it's probably the Raptors starting lineup change. That's probably what was in that.
Shireman in 72, Nurkic in 67, Pritchard in 60, Salon in 55, AD in 40, Bona in 40, Lonnie Walker in 40, Bob Carrington in 35, Sarr in 30, Grimes in 30, Klingon still in 22. Shout out White of the Night. Biggest fade for me, half the field of Sam Hauser.
Ooh, okay. All right. I'm going to do a little bit of a manual projection boost to Nick Smith before running this. And I'll just put him in for a few extra minutes. And
I would recommend, if you haven't done it yet, have you generated your contest yet?
So what I just did is I ran the contest. I gave a couple of up arrows to Nick Smith, and now I'm also boosting his projection.
I was going to tell you to give a couple up arrows to Baylor Shireman.
Okay.
I'm going to try to rerun my stuff right now, just in case. I don't know how well that's going to go for me, but we have him at 26.5% ownership. I'm going to be very surprised if that's the case. And it's creating a situation where he is like disproportionately overowned for me, which I don't mind having a ton of him. Like, I think he's a good play, but if he were showing up as 40% owned, which I think he's going to be a little bit higher, I think I would end up with slightly less. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this in time, but I'm going to try. But I do think
any questions from Discord.
I do think
no
that's
more
a little
Discord
light.
questions right now. If you guys have Discord questions, hit me up and we can answer some of those. The main question I'm getting from my parents right now, who are apparently sitting next to each other on the couch, but don't communicate with each other. So I get the same text message from them individually asking me if I'm dead or not.
That's the best. What a weird way
crazy,
to
though.
like. That's technology. Just text me back if you're not dead.
So I assume you noticed that when we ran the animation before I got up, it was to look out my window. It's right outside my house. My entire street is shut down. There is a flipped over car the same exact make and model of my car, same color and everything. So I don't know how my mom was like, I was looking on Facebook and this showed up. That was how she ended up seeing it. Like, I can understand why they see a car flipped over with like ambulances and stuff all around. It's outside my house and like it is like all the same as my car.
That's incredible. How does that happen?
I don't know.
How does that happen?
I can't see the license plate, but I'm like 50-50 on if my car got stolen or not.
Hopefully. Get
Be
that
a nice
sweet
payout.
Right. All right.
Ooh. I got to a lot of Nick Smith after doing some of those changes.
Yeah, I'm not even going to bother doing this. I should, but I'm not going to bother. I don't want to rush. I'm happy with what I have.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy with what I did with Nick Smith, and then it'll be a little bit more fine-tuned when we do some late swaps after this. But yeah, I think Nick Smith looks really good right now.
Guys, we're going to be on playback. 3 minutes. You guys got 3 minutes for lock. Playback.tv/Stokaastic. If you want to come watch games, get news, late swap information, updated ownership, we're going to be there the whole time. If you have League Pass, you could link your account, watch games. If you don't, we can give you a VIP pass, watch games. If you don't have either of those two things, you just hear Greg and I talking about the game. But got a lot going on. 2 games at 7, 2 at 7:30, an 8 o'clock, a 9 o'clock, a bunch later on for FanDuel. So there's going to be a ton of news coming in on today's slate. The best place to be for today is watching along with us on Playback.
Absolutely. And I'll drop that link into the chat as well as soon as the sim is done running for me, the sim is done running. I just need to upload the lineups because that's the most important part. Even after you build the lineups, you still got to upload them or else nothing's going to go your way for the day. So, all right, I've got all of that set. I'm going to drop the playback link in so you guys know where to find that. Anything that's surprising you about the final run of your lineups?
Not really. I'm not surprised to see that I'm light on Sam Hauser. I saw that one coming. I don't have nearly as much of some of these payups as I wanted to have, Luka Doncic in particular, but oh well. I guess.
Let's see. I wasn't expecting this a few minutes ago, but at least relative to his current ownership, or his current projected ownership, I have a Nick Smith stand because he isn't projected for a ton of ownership, but I'm now expecting him to start because he's confirmed in the starting lineup. Let's see. What else ended up changing here? Yeah, other than that, everything's kind of as I was expecting it before.
Yeah, I don't really see much crazy. I'm not surprised by that. I think the best plays today were pretty damn obvious, and the guys that I'm rotating around them, Donovan Clingan, Banchero, Jared Butler, Bam. These are some of the guys that I have like a little bit of a stand on. I guess Sarr, Grimes, but it's mostly just finding different combinations of some of these heavy owned value plays. Who's the anti-nuke of the night tonight? Who's the death sentence? Who gets you that you have?
Ooh.
Like, who are you nervous about?
Probably Nurk.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I have a lot of him. There's no so like it's so apparent what the upside is for Nurkic, especially with Diabate out. But at the same time, too, like Charlotte isn't obligated to play him big minutes. He's an absolute moron. He could go pick up 3 personal fouls guarding nobody in the first 3 minutes of the game, and then he just gets crushed for that reason. So yeah, I've got Nurkic in 2/3 of my lineups, and it's not hard to envision a scenario where that goes wayward.
I feel like I don't ever get him right, and he's in 67% of my stuff, so I'm admittedly a little nervous about it, but too late now. We're locked. Although, I guess not too late now for Yusuf Nurkic. That game's at 7:30. But head on over to playback.tv/Stokaastic and come watch these games with Greg and I. Use the promo code ALL. Sign up for $100 off an all-access package at Stokastic. You can deposit $10 at DraftKings, get a $10 ticket for the Masters, Portfolio EV, free 7-day trial, always. Link in the description. Greg, anything else before we move on over there?
Really quick, we've got Pat Clay Tomstar asked us last minute here, how often will Luka look to hunt Clay? I don't know. Pat Clay, he has to make sure he gets a Clay Thompson question into every show that the Mavericks are on. I think it's just going to happen, but Luka's going to have success no matter who's guarding him in all likelihood.
There we go, everybody. Playback now. Peace.